Yahoo! Get that wagon on the trail. We're heading out Texas way. We gonna get us some land and raise a family. Can't you hear the wagon wheels creaking? Creak, crack, creak, crack. And there's nothing like that smell of wood burning over the open campfire. There's nothing but the stars above and the person just right next to you cuddling up to keep you nice and warm. Don't pay attention to those bandits, though. If we all stick together, nobody can mess with us. We'll round up them wagons and play us some fiddle picking. Fiddling, sticking, I don't know. Once we get our land, our troubles will be all over. No murder, no running, no problems. Yep, I can see it now. It's heaven.
I didn't see you there.
It all started early this morning.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot, UFOs,
Cryptids, true crime, paranormal, and more.
I've always wanted to see a UFO.
Oh, I was researching for your entertainment.
That's Bigfoot's sketch.
He basically wrote the book on Monarch.
We aren't really comedians.
What if Buddha did cocaine?
The Addams Family on meth. This is the Black Cat Report.
See you on the other side.
Welcome to the Black Cat Report and big episode 110. We are officially out of Time Traveler Month, and with me is the most happiest of them all for that, Gil.
Hello. And I just want to say to all of our friends and family in Texas, I'm sorry.
I hit the nail right on the head, I think, when I got into that. If you are watching on video, you are getting a real treat. So much so that the mustache over my lips is over my lips. So it's hard to talk while I'm trying to do this. And it's hard not to go right back into that southern accent as I'm doing it.
We're starting a drinking game right now. It's how many times Joey sneezes. All right. So for every time he sneezes due to the fake mustache attached to his face,
you drink.
You have to finish your drink.
Yes. It's going to be a lot. Before we get into today's episode and topic, we want to thank you all for supporting the B3 Indiegogo campaign. And if you haven't yet, please check it out, as honestly, some of the perks for it you are going to enjoy. Gil can elaborate just a little bit about this.
Just a little bit, yeah. So, if for some reason you've been a paranormal ghost living underneath a paranormal rock and you haven't got a chance to hear, on September 28th, this next month, honestly, we are going to be going, the whole cast of Beer, Booze, and Boogeyman. So it'll be Kristen, Damien, Joey, and I. We're all going to be going to Eastern Kentucky to a place called the Night House. This is a big deal, not just for us because we all get to meet up, but also because this is the first time this notoriously haunted house is going to have an open public investigation. We're going to be leading it. Not just that, but we're going to be doing a live stream investigation of the whole damn thing, the whole damn night. So we're talking 5 to 8 hours long, right? But not just that. The way that we're setting up this investigation is interactive. Now, as far as we can tell, this might be a first in terms of ghost hunts, investigations, but if you are a donor, which we're basically considering it like if you want a ticket to the event, you just got to donate. The closer you get us to it, the closer we're going to bring you to it. So if you donate between, I think it's $5 to get access to the live stream, $25 to get access to treating us like a fucked up version of The Sims, right? You're going to be able to actually tell us what to do, control what rooms we go into, have full access to the investigation, into the equipment that we use, the questions that we ask, who does what, where they go, when it happens, all the things like that. And the entire time, you're going to have a large paranormal community that's also there, live in the chat, chatting with you, having a good time the entire night. We're all pretty stoked and think it's going to be pretty damn great. And if that doesn't convince you, guess the frick what?
What?
Coming up on September 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so 7/7, we're going to be having an old school style telethon. More specifically, a paranormal palooza, or a parapalooza, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be having folks from all across the paranormal community come on to Beer, Booze, and Boogeyman and do a shit ton of mini interviews, everything from ghost hunters to folks that are involved in hunting Bigfoot and cryptids, anything at all in between. I can't think of anything else right now. But all the types of things we cover on this show. We might even get an active serial killer, at least if Joey lets me. But that's going to be happening on September 7th at 7 p.m. More information will be coming in next week's episode, so hope to see you there.
Yeah, definitely hope to see you there. Well, now that, like we said, we're out of time travel month, we are still going to do a little bit of clock turning, and we're going to go back to just the U.S. getting out of the frontier times. So we're right on the edge of the frontier times. And our source for today is Outlaw Bill Mitchell, alias Baldy Russell, His Life and Times by C.L. Sonnichsen. Our topic for today, Billy Mitchell, or his alias, Baldy Russell, and the feud of Mitchell's Bend, starts with his family in 1868. His father and Big Daddy of the Mitchell house, Nelson A. Mitchell, or nicknamed Cooney, for honestly reasons that aren't mentioned in the book. Maybe he just liked hunting raccoons. Well, Nelson was born in North Carolina in November of 1796. He was a wiry, white-bearded, long-haired, energetic North Carolinian who, according to the author, did things 10 or 20 years later than most other people. And to be fair, honestly, that's what I do.
Wait, so he was born with a white beard? He was born at 6 years old with a white beard doing things 20 years late?
He got, 20 years early for that, apparently, for the white beard. But no, he was eventually white-bearded. That's what he was described as. But he was described as wiry his whole life. So,
That's not what you said. You said he was born with a white beard?
No, I said he was a wiry, white-bearded, long-haired, energetic North Carolinian. Baldy's father, Nelson, moved a bunch of times throughout the years. And also, he lost his wife to an intermittent fever, then remarried again. There was some speculation about his wife's death from people around saying that he kind of might have had a hand in killing her. But I would say that I'm really not sold on that for everything I read. I don't think he killed her. His second wife was part Cherokee, and they had 7 kids together, 4 girls and 3 boys. Lou, Annette, who went by Net, Georgiana, and Armenta were the girls. And Jeff, Dan, and Bill, who is most of our topic for today, were the boys. By all accounts, and even said later, after the trials, that the Mitchell kids were law-abiding and peaceable children, even if they sometimes got into a little bit of childish mischief. You know, it's kind of the normal back in those days. The kids would fight each other. They would fight other kids. That kind of happens, you know? But they still didn't, go out and kill anybody when they were young. They didn't do crazy stuff. Well, Billy Mitchell, or Baldy, as he would later go as, was practically illiterate. He could barely read or write. And as we find out later, he couldn't read or write. But where he couldn't read books, he could actually read and do sign language, which is just an interesting thing.
That's pretty cool.
To me, that he could learn that.
Yeah. What time was this?
This is 1868. Around 1860s, 1870s.
That's not that uncommon for folks to be illiterate at that time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just that he knew sign was uncommon to me.
Have you ever seen, there was, it was all over the world, but North America, every country or every region or culture kind of had its own thing, but there were these whole collections of, it was like an actual sign language, like symbology. It was kind of like the sweet spot, the between period between folks just being completely illiterate and folks a formal education starting to take over and more folks becoming literate. There was a whole series of signs, for instance, barbershops. It's a leftover thing. So you have the red and blue spirally little thing outside of barbershops. It's because barbershops, along with cutting hair, used to do dentistry, and they also used to do bloodletting. Yeah, yep. Right, which is what the blue and the red stand for. Yeah. In that. And then, for whatever reason, I think, the white stood for actual, it stood for, shaving cream and stuff. But, those colors and the swirls and it moving and it all had a very specific symbology behind it about, the barber, dentist, bloodletter for illnesses.
Yeah, I guess if you couldn't read,
they're in business. Yeah, they're open, right? And it's also why places used to have giant-ass signs for everything where, it would be a fucking, shotgun the size of somebody's living room that would be on the billboard because it was that's clearly where they sell guns, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I
a
mean,
weird time.
they didn't have contacts back then. They did have glasses, but to be fair, like I could not see unless there was a big ass gun sitting at the top. I would be like, is that a pie?
Dear
Is that
Lord,
the
I hope.
bakery?
Dear Lord, I hope they sell scopes there.
Yeah. Yes.
Do we want the person who can't even see the fucking 20-foot shotgun? They can't tell it's a 20-foot shotgun. Do we want them being a gun owner? Like, I'm not trying to go after the Second Amendment here, but I'm just saying, I don't know if I trust that.
Thought I saw a rabbit out there.
Dear God, it's a bear! And he's like, he's been shooting Meemaw for 25 minutes. I done told you to go on, you get.
He wasn't even hitting her. Well, a lot of this stuff we can understand for the time. We can understand, sign language, that he was illiterate. Most of the people. This is Texas in the 1860s and 70s, right after the Civil War. And it was still being, more often enough settled by white people, pretty much. Europeans coming over, It was already inhabited by people who lived here.
The word is taken over.
Yes.
If we want to talk in terms of, like, not just the native folks, but the Spanish folks, the Mexican folks who are also there.
Well, at this time, they had yet to build major schools or anything of educational value because, like you said, they're like right in between times.
Yeah.
Being, beyond learning how to survive in the wild. So most people, like Billy Mitchell included, learn things like hunting, fishing, exploring, horse riding, and, the everyday things, working in a stable, all those things. Billy was also noted to have never joked, like ever. I would like to say that you could say he wasn't a parrot head. He definitely didn't wear flip-flops, and he didn't step on a pop-top, nor did he even like Jimmy Buffett. I can say that for sure. He was dead-ass serious, no cap on God. Well, like most late and end of frontier life stories, feuds are what generally start outlaw stories, and this one is obviously no different. The Mitchells had moved to Texas and what eventually became known as Mitchell's Bend in 1868. The Mitchells bought large tracts of land, as was the norm, and eventually would start to sell off parcels to travelers coming out for a different life. The opposing side of this feud with the Mitchells would be the Truitts. The Truitts were also from North Carolina, and they actually were from Buncombe County. They're from here. Perimeter Morgan, or PM for short, Truitt, was the head of the family at this time, and he had a few kids that were noted here: James, Sam, and Ike Truitt. James Truitt was the literal opposite of Bill Mitchell. He was intelligent, blonde-haired, fair of face, and extremely personable. He was basically a person not made for the life of a rancher, and eventually became a preacher. Someone said of James Truitt, and this has become my favorite quote, "Your head is like a tar bucket. Everything that touches it sticks." The Truitt family itself was definitely a more well-to-do family than the Mitchells, and it showed. Though, what is funny is for the most part of the time before the feud started, I guess as in most all feuds, both families were friends, And according to both sides, they helped each other get on in life. Well, Nelson Mitchell even bought James Truitt a Bible and some clothes to help him get on with his studies to become a preacher. It was pretty peaceful for a while, but this was like the calm before the storm, just like the Hatfields and McCoys. Except, Hatfields and McCoys, honestly, they just hated each other from the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was that whole sour land deal.
That's what did it.
Yeah. It was a whole sour land deal where, like, neither side could agree to what was fair in the process, but, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. Land will do it.
All we have is the rest of this continent we're taking. God damn it.
At the beginning of 1874, this is when it all changed. Each side started having personal encounters, and the boys of the families would start, jabbing at each other, taunting each other. And what probably started as like friendly jests and jeers at first, probably started to get a bit more personal after a while. It all started when Nelson Mitchell brought a suit against PM Truitt. The suit basically stated that PM Truitt owed money to Nelson Mitchell for the purchase of the land. Friggin', of course. The purchase of the land is what caused the feud. Just like...
Sounds about right.
Oh, God. Still happens to this day. I'm going to quote the news account in the papers at the time to describe what happened that started the feud and really became the reason why Billy Mitchell went on the lam. It's going to be rather long, so just bear with me, okay?
No.
I'll do it the first way, the Texy way. Southern Texy way. It's not even Southern. It's not even Texas. I'm sorry to all the Texas listeners that will eventually be here. I do not know any other accent besides Matthew McConaughey. And it should sound Texas, but it sounds more Southern. It's a Southern version of Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey is Southern.
And he's from Texas.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's more Southern. It's like more, like, I would say it's more North Carolinian than it is more Texas. I don't know. I don't even know accents. I'm stupid, so accents evade me.
You're not stupid. You've somehow managed to travel and not listen to a single person that you ran into when you travel.
I really don't listen to accents. It's kind of funny. Most people, like, it'll be like a year until I'm like, damn, you have an accent.
Yeah, man, y'all, they all, dang it, man, y'all, go down to the store, man, y'all, see, boom, man, it was bang, dang, bang, dang, dang. You're just like, holy shit, I just realized you're not from New York. Yeah, man, y'all, dang, man, y'all, New York, too, man, y'all, hot tour, you know what I'm saying, man, y'all, dang, man, y'all, boom.
Okay. Well, we're going to do the Texas Southern way first so we can get into this character. A double tragedy. About 6 o'clock Saturday evening, this community was startled into a fever heat of excitement by the news of a series of murders committed on the highway about 7 miles south of this place. The particulars are substantially as follows. In the Tankersley Bend, there reside 2 families named, respectively, Truitt and Mitchell. For some time past, there has been a lawsuit pending between P.M. Truitt and Nelson Mitchell, involving the ownership of a small piece of land, but about which much bad blood has been engendered. During the last week, 3 sons of P.M. Truitt were attending court as witnesses and were in town every day. The father, being very low with an attack of pneumonia, could not attend. On Saturday afternoon, the Truitt boys started home and not proceeded far before they were overtaken by the Mitchell gang, consisting of Old Cooney, his son William, W.J., and Mitt Greaves and D.A. Shaw, armed with shotguns. Being peaceable young men and wishing to avoid trouble, the Truitt boys rode away and for some time kept ahead of them, but the Mitchell crowd, as if bent upon murder, overtook them when about 7 miles from town, without a word of warning, leveled their guns and fired in the volley. Samuel Truitt fell from his horse dead, and James Truitt, who, by the way, is a Methodist preacher, received a fearful wound in the shoulder. Isaac Truitt, a mere lad of 16, dashed out through the open woods, but was overtaken and by bloody work was soon disposed of. James made a desperate effort to save his life, and although closely pursued and fainting from loss of blood, succeeded in reaching the house of Mr. Ford, where he was taken in and cared for, and is now in the fair way to recovery. I mean, this is really pro-Truitt, right? This is like literally, the Mitchells are terrible people. The Truitts are great. Like, he's a preacher. James Truitt's a preacher. Why would anything happen? When I read this, I was just like, damn, that's pretty one-sided there, you know, especially for a newspaper article that was like a couple days after.
Yeah, especially like they even threw in that part, like, man, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through, it's like, by the way, is a Methodist preacher, like, threw that in there, which I gotta say, Joey, compliments on your accent. You killed it. Really good.
Thank you. I kept it in most of the parts, and now I can't get rid of it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's hard to get rid of. Now I'm just going to be stuck in that accent for the rest of my life.
Oh, God. Well, we officially just saw the birth of Joey's second accent. There's Matthew McConaughey, and then there's also Texas Matthew McConaughey.
No, this is Matthew McConaughey and Texas Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey's from Texas.
I know. And that's what makes it funny. Yeah, but like reading it, I'm just like, dang,
yeah.
There's no other side to this. And when newspapers came out, like it's just, you know, throwing fuel on the fire, like, damn, they killed him. It's crazy. Well, the Mitchell account of this kind of turns it, obviously, just a bit on its head.
Okay.
In their account, the Mitchells left on the trail first, and the Truitts caught up to the Mitchells on the trail and were threatening the Mitchells, waving guns and like jeering at them, saying, "You stole hogs from us," and take care, which I didn't know that was a thing to say as like a bad thing. I always say that to people, and I hope they don't think that I'm saying that to be like, I'm gonna kill you later, you know?
I think it like kind of goes with the same thing of like, you better watch out. You better watch out.
Yeah.
You better watch out. You know, like it's like it doesn't, it's all about the tone, you know? And like if you're pointing a gun at somebody and they're stepping towards you, and yet you better take care. Take care right now. You better take care. Like it's like it's basically saying like, take heed. Like you better watch the fuck out, you know?
Yeah. Watch out for us because
it's an old-timey like fucking like, I'm not the person you want to tussle with, you know? Like the kids say these days, tussle. I don't know. That's not a
tussle.
Thing. Yeah.
I don't know if they say it. I think you do that with people's hair, you know? You just like tussle their hair. Well, farther up the trail, the Truitts again got around the Mitchells and pulled out their pistols and started waving at them threateningly, right? So they did it again. Now, it was said that Isaac Truitt, one of the youngest Truitts, snapped a derringer at Bill Mitchell, and Mitt Graves, who was the brother-in-law of Baldy Mitchell, turned around and seeing this, just blasted Sam Truitt off his horse. And so it began they killed Ike as well. And James Truitt was able to escape with a shot in his shoulder. So they blasted the shit out of him. I mean, either way you take it, they killed him.
Yeah.
This Mitchell idea is that they were threatened because they had a gun. It kind of makes it so it's not like cold-blooded murder, you know? And kind of makes them look a little better because people would understand like, okay, well, like if a guy's pulling out a derringer at you, he means to kill you. And if he's threatening you, running by, and, you know, you're kind of playing chicken, I think that guy means to kill you, especially in the frontier days. Like, even after the frontier days, it's kind of like, if somebody walks by you, points a derringer gun at you, and it's just like kind of fakes, and I think that's what was happening in the way he like kind of fake shoot at him, kind of like, even if it's not dangerous looking or feeling, like it still would scare me enough to be like, okay, I got to still protect myself, you know?
No, I mean that at no point in history is somebody waving a gun at you not considered a threat. Like literally, we don't even need to justify it.
Yep.
If you come across somebody on the street, you know, if you're like, I don't know, fucking in your house, say you're a gun owner and you're in your house and somebody out on the street points a gun up into your like living room window, like pointing it at you, and you happen to have a gun there, you're pulling your fucking gun out. Like, what the fuck's going on? You know, like that is, it's never been okay to do. And it still isn't okay to do, you know?
No. And well, Ike Truitt, right? He was the youngest, the 17-year-old. He couldn't get away.
It's these kids with firearms. That's what it is.
Well, it's because he was riding a mule and everybody else was riding horses.
Yes. Get on, you jackass!
No, I'm talking to my mule. I'm not talking to you. What'd you say to me? And it just gets, that's what really happened.
Yeah.
And he's talking to his mule, and then the guy shoots him, and he's like, I didn't mean you.
It's how most fights started in the Wild West. Mule-based.
Yeah. I can just imagine him being like, hey, guys, wait up. And his brothers just ride off without him, kind of leaving him there to get shot and killed. And he's like, bye.
Jeez. That's terrible.
I know. You know what, though?
Huh.
That's what brothers would do back in those days. That was a joke. That was the joke. Good luck getting killed.
That was the punchline.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do think it's sad because he was killed and he couldn't get away. But, you know, enough time has passed. We can laugh at his death. It's fine. It's like 130 years. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only one to escape of the Truitt clan was James. He was shot in the shoulder, and he, like he said in the article, his friend's house, he went to patch him up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the papers, like in the excerpt I read above, gave glowing reviews of the Truitts and horrible traits to the Mitchells. When the news cycle of the event ended, Isaac Truitt, who was one of the people murdered, became a crippled and lovely boy. Like, basically, they just keep evolving this story to make the Truitts look better, you know?
There's nothing wrong with that phrasing, but that's like striking. Like, for some reason, where it's just like, and due to the injuries he sustained, he became a crippled and lovely boy. It's just like, what? Like, I don't. That's the adjectives put together. That there's a certain ring to it. I know that the newspaper. Well, I know that the newspaper guy, when he put those letters together, he was just like shaking his head, like, "Yeah, that's poetic." There's a certain
This is
ring
gonna
to
make
that.
headlines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what I'm doing. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sitting there with the lead type,
La-di-da-di-da.
just lining it up. Yeah.
Yeah. This lead paint over here tastes pretty good.
Just gray tongue.
Yeah. It's like, damn, that's how the paper's written back in the day.
Well, now that I'm done setting up the type for for today's newspaper, gotta get to my job as a hat maker. Snorts Mercury and just keeps walking.
Because of all the news stories, the events, how it was covered, public outcry to bring the Mitchells in grew so loud, a posse was rounded up to pick up the Mitchells and try them for murder.
Damn.
Major Kingsbury of Kansas City and James Dawson of San Antonio were sent out to arrest the Mitchells. They were just people that were pulled into the town to be the sheriffs just to arrest these guys. Again, we're in Northeast Texas, so this is kind of like they're bringing in people they're kind of in the areas, but not too far away. But people who didn't really know those people, so they could still be impartial, you know?
It's getting pretty damn close to Arkansas, and that's, I don't know. I don't trust it.
You know what's funny? I know that people say it's Arkansas, but it's funny. Why wouldn't they just say it's Arkansas?
See, this is why you'll never pass in the South, Joey.
There's a place right next to it that's called Kansas. We're just Kansas, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly.
They're piratey Kansas. Yeah.
They're piratey Kansas. Arkansas.
Well, the Major Kingsbury and James Dawson raided the house, and then they arrested Nelson Mitchell, Owens, and Jeff Mitchell, who was just kind of a young boy. He was maybe like 14, 15 at this time. The son of Nelson Mitchell, obviously.
Prime age of an insurgent.
Exactly. The age of a murderer. Yep. Well, they searched around the town and area, but couldn't find a hide nor trace of Mitchell or Graves, the people who had actually shot the people. Yep, hide nor hair. They couldn't find the people who had actually shot the two Truitts, you know, and murdered the two Truitts and shot one Truitt. Well, eventually, the governor of Texas, because of the public outcry, put up a reward of $350 for the capture of Billy Baldy Mitchell and Graves, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
But the Truitts almost doubled that offer, and they offered $500 for the capture, so you're getting $850 if you capture both of them.
Damn. That's a fuck ton of money. That's a lot. Considering like an entire breakfast with coffee and shit like that probably cost like 3 cents back then.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can say the Truitts were fucking pissed. Well,
un poquito.
I would like to say they were probably trying to keep up the appearances of being so pissed because honestly, I think they
wanted it.
It in this instance with this feud, it took two to tango. I think they were both trying to keep the public outcry going against the Mitchells. They were trying to go like, look, get them, they killed them. To be fair, the Mitchells did kill 2 of them, you know, and shot another one. So they are guilty on that account. And that's not contested. Neither side contested that, right? It's just that there could have been cause for it. And that's how I see it, is like maybe there was cause for it. Well, anyways, with Nelson Mitchell, W.J. Owens, and D.A. Shaw caught and waiting trial, and Billy Baldy Mitchell and Mitt Graves, who were the original shooters, somewhere hiding out, will go to the trials, because this is going to be what affects in the long term of the outcomes later. We can get through W.J. Owens and D.A. Shaw pretty quick because both of them were tried first and then given life sentences, right? So they were just given life sentences right away. This is easy for the court. Nelson Mitchell, who was Billy's dad, was next. He went to trial, and they did everything they could to get away. It wasn't me, I wasn't even there, stuff like that, saying nobody saw me there, nobody saw me shoot these people. I didn't even have a gun. There's no evidence. There's no anything.
Look I don't even have a hand. And it's just he just like raises up his arms, literally doesn't have hands. He's like, how the hell you think I did it?
Yeah. That's why they call me Handy Mitchell. Nelson Handy Mitchell. Not for those other things I do.
Oh, that's why they call me Stub Your Wife McGee.
Well, no matter what he did, he still was found guilty. He even took it all the way to the Supreme Court.
Damn.
And they still upheld the verdict. Yeah, like they took it all the way up because they're like, come on, like somebody's got to help us out. But because of the public outcry, it was open and shut case. Like everybody was like, kill him. It was awful.
Kill him.
Yeah, literally.
Damn. Okay.
He was sentenced to be hanged until dead.
Okay.
To be fair, he wasn't even the person who shot them.
Damn.
Or even had a hand in it because the public outcry was so heavy. The jury and judge were merciless towards him. His family wrote the governor, and the governor ignored them because he's like, well, everyone's saying kill him. Might as well. I don't want to deal with it. What made it even worse was that the judge in the trial itself read the definition of manslaughter and murder. He then basically told the jury that this wasn't a crime of passion and that Nelson Mitchell was completely guilty. This is the judge. This is the judge.
This calls for Frank Oldfield. The only person that could make the situation better would be somebody dedicated to this guy dying, even though he disagrees with the guy dying. It's the only way this could get any better.
And he sat outside the jail just waiting for him. Just waiting for him. Like,
just
I'll help
waiting
you.
for the verdict that he doesn't even want.
Yeah, exactly. Frank Oldfield.
Frank Oldfield, man.
Man of the people.
Something.
Man of the people.
Man of something.
Something. So no matter what Nelson said or did, he was guilty. Okay. It's kind of weird to see this, honestly, because of the time. I mean, it wasn't like this was a super unknown thing, basically just killing people in the time. You know, people were shooting people in the frontier times and getting away with it.
Yeah.
We've covered some outlaws in the past. We've covered some the cannibal. Levi
Cannibal.
Boone Helm, who kept getting away with stuff and kept escaping, and like they let him go, which is like this one for some reason. And I think if I can look at the time period, I think they were getting to the time where they're right after the Civil War. They're just getting out of everyone shooting people, you know, Billy the Kid's in the same time periods. And they're like, okay, we got to put a stop to all this lawlessness.
Yeah.
And we're going to make you the trophy. You're going to be the person that we go, you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. There's no revenge. There's no revenge happening anymore. And I think that this is one of the things that happened is like nobody wants this in their town, to be fair. Nobody wants revenge killings.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's where this kind of came from. Nelson started to accept his fate, you know, after he was sentenced guilty to be hanged till death because, well, everything he tried didn't work and was stomped out in any turn. He was stuck in jail for 9 months before he was supposed to hang, which is a long time and cruel. Because he's sitting there, can't escape. He's just thinking about what's happening. And I don't know what's happening to my mustache. I hope it's staying on.
Your mustache is also on death row right now. I was going to say, people are on death row way longer than 9 months now. Like, it's considered cruel and unusual at the time. Now it's like 20-something years on death row. Like, it's not.
Yeah. They just let them hang. And they don't even, you know, sometimes they'll just randomly come do it and come pick him up and kill him. And it's like...
Yeah.
Well, I can only imagine what was going through his mind throughout this time. His son, Jeff Mitchell, decided he would not let his dad be taken out by a crooked jury.
Hell yeah.
Well, there were 2 attempts to get him out of jail before he was hanged. And as we know from our Frontier episodes, breaking out of jail was not a crime, as the natural inclination for humans was to be free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first attempt was made not too long after he had been sentenced to death. Jeff Mitchell, who was Nelson Mitchell's son, was to bring in a pistol and a poison bottle in the hands of Nelson when he went to visit to him. So he's basically breaking into this place, and he was saying, you're going to use the pistol if you can, and if you get caught by the guards, you're going to drink the poison bottle and kill yourself so you can escape the hangman's noose. But this is one thing I want to harp on, right?
Uh-huh.
All of these people in this episode are super Christian.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, and the idea behind this, when he gave him the poison bottle to commit suicide, if that's better than him dying and being hanged with a clean conscience. Because at this point, Nelson believes, and he obviously made points, that he's innocent and he has no problem. But now the idea is for him to commit suicide, which is, if we're going to go this route and think about it, it's like, well, isn't that going to make you look worse? You're going to just get sent to hell if that's your belief, right? Am I wrong here?
Maybe. I mean, that's like, some people believe that.
Jump into some religious.
Yeah, no, this was a family member many years ago talked to a Catholic priest and asked about suicide. And I thought that the Catholic priest, it was because their son had died and they were suicidal, and they brought this up. And we were obviously all concerned about this family member. This is a long time ago, but it's something that always stuck with me. The Catholic priest said, they were like, listen, if your mind is in the mindset of committing suicide, you're not mentally stable. And God doesn't punish those that aren't mentally stable. And that stuck with me as the one thing that I'm not religious at all, but that in terms of making fucking sense, I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you were in the mindset to do something like that, you were not in a stable mindset.
Yeah.
And so even with the religious beliefs about committing suicide, all the religions still say they're not going to, like, if somebody, you know, is not neurotypical, right? And they do something or commit some sort of harm or whatever, we would all be like, well, yeah, but, you know, they're not neurotypical, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. Or they had a moment of insanity or this or that or, you know, whatever. That was the one thing that I ever heard from, like, Catholic Church where I was like, that tracks. I respect
You're
that.
onto something there.
I respect that. I respect that. Yeah. So maybe it was kind of like that. I don't know.
Maybe
But-
that's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't even matter, because as he tried to go into the jail and they searched him as he walked into the jail, they found the gun and he didn't even bring the poison. So he only brought half of it because he didn't even think that he was tasked to do it by some of the members of the family, and he was like, why would I bring poison? And he brought just the gun. And so they found the gun, and none of that mattered.
And he was in the jail cell next to him for an extended visit.
No, they just let him go because they're like, we understand that you want your dad. Like it was that part. They're very understanding, just like the law. Like, humans want to be free. They're just like, okay, we understand it's your dad. You want to get him out, or just making sure everything's okay. And they all knew these people in town. Like, they're all were friends. They knew the sheriffs, they knew the jails people. So they're just like, all right, Jeff, just get on out here, go home back to your mom. The second attempt to get him, broken free was the last. Just 2 days before he was about to be hanged on Wednesday, October 7th, 1875, Jeff brought a horse, a companion, 2 guns, and then a package to give to Nelson. Nelson would drop a string out of the window facing towards the river, and the package would be attached to the string. He'd then reel that package up, and the rest was up to him. He'd basically have to use whatever was in the package, probably
a gun and a small bottle of poison.
This is the real package that he was supposed to give him.
It's a cake with a file in it, but it was still delivered through a river with a floating.
Yeah.
But the cake was disguised as Noah, just like in a little basket. It was a baby in a basket. Like, everybody's like, that looks familiar. Nah.
It was one of those real cakes, when you watch the videos and they're like, one's an arm and it cuts an arm and it's just like, oh shit, that's a cake.
Why did I say Noah? No, it was
Moses.
Moses, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was Moses, just like baby Moses in a basket, just like floating down the river, and just like picks off his arm, and it's like a tiny little baby Moses arm knife. And he's like, all right, this'll get me out of here. Just cake frosting squished around his hand. Baby fist hanging out of the bottom of the knife. Brutal. They didn't have to make it red velvet cake. That kind of made it more gruesome when he took it apart, honestly.
Damn, am I bleeding? Nah, that's just the red velvet. Well, this obviously didn't happen.
Oh.
He couldn't get through. So, as soon as Jeff and his companion and the horse approached, galloped, very quietly, got over the river, the guards heard him, and they were like, "Who goes there?" Nobody moved. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
And then they started shooting blindly towards the noise.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
You go and you get pew 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 pew. Go and get pew 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 pew.
Yeah, and instead of just being like, okay, like it's probably Jeff again, they were just like,
It's probably
blah,
Jeff
blah, blah.
again.
Yeah, old Jeff just trying, always with his shenanigans.
Jesus, Jeff.
The next thing they heard was hoofs heading away from them, and so it's nighttime, right? They went down to take a look at everything they had shot at. They got their little lantern. They were looking over there, and they found the body of the young son. Oh, poor Jeff. And so they killed Jeff, and they never talked about it.
We're just not going to talk about this.
Yeah, they never said anything. People found out, obviously, that they killed him.
Yeah.
They just never said that they did. And so it eventually, like the day after, Nelson found out because, they had to put the body somewhere. But Nelson, who is Jeff's father, found out, and he was heartbroken. Obviously, he thought more about his son getting killed than he cared about him being about to be hung.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like, all right, well, you killed my son right as I'm about to die. What the fuck are you doing? Like, I guess if you can look at it like this, it's going to be 2 for 2, 2 and 2.
It's a
because
yeah.
2 Truitts are dead. Now 2 Mitchells are about to die.
Yeah,
so,
it's still pretty fucked. Yeah.
And it's really bad. This is just feuds, That's a lot of this stuff is. Well, the day came of the hanging, and they dragged Nelson out into the square. As they stood Nelson up and put the noose around his neck, Nelson started shouting at James Pruitt, who was the original guy that was wounded in the shooting scuffle, and he stood by and watched. Nelson shouted to him, saying, "Jim, when you didn't have nothing but one pony in a wagon, didn't I take you in and feed you? Didn't I? When you wanted to go preaching, didn't I buy you the first suit of clothes you ever had? Didn't I buy you a Bible? A good Bible to start you out?" And to each question, James said nothing and just stared at him blankly and coldly.
Damn.
There's some bad blood happening there. Well, when the sheriff, who was sitting on the cart with Nelson on the back of it, just with his head in the noose, he thought that's gone long enough. He hit the horses, drove the wagon holding up Nelson Mitchell, and his feet and body swung until it went limp. And that's where we'll end our episode today, as next week we will get into Billy Baldy Mitchell and the rest of his travels and life. We want to say thank you again to all of our patrons so far. Copy Kitty and Paranormal Girl Podcast. Thank you so much for helping us keep the internet on. You guys make our life so much easier. Please, if you can, our Patreon has so much to offer. We want to give you guys everything we can. You can even watch Gil dancing to this music right now. He's getting down. He's getting groovy. He's getting funky. You can even see video of Gil picking up Salem, little old baby kitty or Dada, and just cuddling him while I'm talking or while he's talking, or just getting into the mood. Well, if you see something that maybe you would want us to do or give for a Patreon before subscribing to a tier, please tell us. If it's possible, we will do it. I will whore myself out for money. Well, not that kind of, but maybe. It depends on how much you are willing to give.
He's done it before. I won't. I'm priceless.
Gil's just gonna dance. That's just his part of his Patreon. Well, anyways, we want to thank you for listening, and we will be back next week with part 2.
We love you all.
Bye.
Gavin. I had Gavin, leader of the chicken cult, our fearless leader of the chicken cult, Gavin. I had heard, because he's my sister's neighbor, that he had gotten into BMX about 8 or 9 months ago. And he started, here's the trippy build up to this, okay? He got really into like building bicycles and working on bicycles about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. And he was constantly out in his garage working on bikes. And my sister was like, "Hey, you should listen to my little brother's podcast, Black Cat Report." And so that's how he started listening to Black Cat Report, is while he was out in his parents' garage working on bicycles. He was like 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that at the time, right? Our youngest listener, and legally not even supposed to be a listener of our channel, right? 100%. 100%. Yes. Do your drugs, kids. And so anyways, so that's how he got into Black Cat Report, and he loves our show, vibes with us, da-da-da-da-da. I've met him a bunch of times. Super fucking awesome human being. I love, if all of our listeners are like Gavin, then I'm the happiest content creator on the planet, straight up. Like, I can only speak for myself on that, but like, Joey, I think you're going to be right there with me. Like, if you bet him, you'd be like, dude, if this is what our audience is like, fuck yes, dude. Like, he's cool as shit. Well, so he got into it while he's just working on regular bicycles, and he got really into bicycles. Well, about 7 or 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, he started racing BMX, right? He's, I think, 15 years old. I think he just turned 16 at the time of releasing this episode. That the previous Wednesday he had turned 16. Anyways, so he just got into racing BMX. Within 8 months, within 8 fucking months, he placed second in the state in BMX.
Dang.
And then placed fourth nationally.
Dang.
In 8 months.
Kid's a prodigy.
He had never done BMX in his life and was just like, I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to do this. And in 8 months, placed fourth nationally.
Damn.
Jesus Christ. Like, I was talking to him the other day because he called and he was asking, he was like, hey, I'm starting a paintball team with some friends. I want the Black Cat Report to sponsor it. I was like, fuck yes. Bunch of kids running around the woods shooting each other. That is Black Cat Report written all over it.
Yep.
100%. We condone this. Obviously when it's non-violent.
With paintballs.
Well, that
Paintballs.
non-deadly.
Yes.
It's still violent. But
yes.
Yeah, paintballs.
Paintballs are fine. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Go for it. Anyways, but he's like, if you could name the team, and if you could design our jerseys, which I'm going fucking all out with designing the jerseys. I'm very excited.
It
won't be released until this spring, but I've got some very eccentric ideas that are inspired by early CIA documents that I'm going to be using for these jerseys. But holy shit. Like, I had just heard that he done really well in like county or state, and I was just like, whoa, he's kicking it. No. Like, homie, to be that young and to find not just your niche, but your pure, like, raw talent that soon in
tough.
Life. Dude, like, he's going semi-pro, like, this next year already.
Just like Will Ferrell, yeah.
Just like Will Ferrell, yeah. But no, he's going semi-pro, like, already, because in the amateur level, he fucking...
He rocked him
in 8 months. Like, dude, what the fuck? Who does that?
Yeah, that's like crazy.
I am dead set convinced. Mark my fucking words right here. If homie sticks with this, he's gonna be in the Olympics. Like, where one of our listeners,
2028, he will be there. Dude,
who does that? Who goes from like 0
people.
to 60 that fucking fast? Like, that is. That, I don't know. That's mind blowing. I just feel lucky to know him. You know what I'm saying? And to
sure.
to count him amongst our litter, right? Amongst the ranks of like Black Cat Report listeners and shit like that. It was like a weird moment of pride where it's just like, oh my God, like from working on bikes in your shop to fucking placing, like, you were listening to Black Cat Report, like, bro, that was fueling you on the fucking track, bro. Like, hell yeah. So
hell yeah.
Major shout out Gavin, leader of the chicken cult.
Jab Gavin.
Yeah. Happy.
Proud of you.
Joey's gonna work some magic here. We're gonna put it into the previous week's episode, so that we get there on time. Gavin, our fearless, featherless leader of the chicken cult, we just have
Furless.
to say, we're compelled to say, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy fucking birthday.